Workers across Europe and around the globe took to the streets on May Day, calling for better working conditions. In France, around 260 demonstrations were planned across the country, with minor clashes erupting between protesters and riot police in Paris. Also in Germany, trade unions and other organizations are holding rallies across the country. May Day has been considered a day of struggle for the workers' movement since 1890. And in Italy, marches are mostly organized by the country's three main trade unions.
Dobbiamo ridare dignità al lavoro e salvaguardare la vita umana.
Basta propaganda, è il momento di fare cose concrete, di cancellare leggi balorde.
Workers in Spain have also taken to the streets to demand better pay and reduced working hours. Unions are calling for the reduction of the working week from 40 to 37.5 hours, as well as a reform to the process of dismissal. Meanwhile, in Turkey, May Day served as a platform not only for labor rights but for broader calls to uphold democratic values. Clashes broke out in Istanbul and roughly 300 people were detained during the rallies.
U.S. National Security Advisor Mike Waltz is stepping down from his position to become the country's next ambassador to the United Nations, as President Donald Trump announced on his social media account. With this, he became the first senior official to be removed from the Trump administration, coinciding with its 100-day mark. Meanwhile, Secretary of State Marco Rubio will also serve as National Security Advisor. Waltz created the controversial Signal chat where Yemen strike plans were discussed, accidentally including a journalist. He had previously taken full responsibility for building the message chain, and administration officials described the episode as a mistake. However, the White House had downplayed the resulting security concerns. Waltz's deputy Alex Wong is also expected to depart, according to the sources who spoke to Associated Press, on condition of anonymity.
We had a good engagement.
In his first term, Trump cycled through 4 national security advisors, 4 White House chiefs of staff, and 2 secretaries of state.
So we had an initial engagement with the Russians.
Ukraine has signed a historic economic deal with the United States, granting Washington access to its rare earths minerals in exchange for establishing an investment fund. Ukraine's first Deputy Prime Minister, Yulia Sviridenko, was in the U.S. Capitol to sign the agreement on behalf of Kyiv. The deal stipulates that all resources will remain under Ukrainian ownership, with Kyiv retaining the right to decide on what and where to extract. The two countries also agreed that the 50-50 split on revenues is to only include new deals and licenses, excluding all ongoing projects from the fund. Kyiv says the agreement will also obligate Washington to help Ukraine attract more investment and technology. It also agrees that Kyiv is not financially indebted to the U.S., after Trump had insisted for weeks that Ukraine reimburse hundreds of billions of dollars in aid already delivered. Both parties also agreed that revenues from the investments will not be taxed in either countries as to yield the greatest possible results. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent hailed the new deal, saying that it will be of mutual benefit to both countries.
A Russian drone strike on the Black Sea port city of Odessa early on Thursday killed at least 2 people and injured 15 others. That is according to Ukrainian emergency services. The attack damaged a number of apartment buildings and private homes, a school, a supermarket, and cars. The Ukrainian Air Force reported that Russia launched 170 exploding drones and decoys into 5 regions of Ukraine. They also said Russian forces launched 5 ballistic missiles. Meanwhile, in Kherson, a Ukrainian drone attack left at least 7 people dead in the Russian-occupied town of Oleshki. At least 20 others were wounded. The latest wave of attacks happened after Washington and Kyiv signed an agreement on Wednesday. Ukraine granted the U.S. access to its rare earth minerals, which could potentially lead to continued military support to Ukraine.
The Baltic Sea remains a key focus of tension amid the war in Ukraine. Belgian and Dutch ships are operating in Estonia as part of a NATO mission to monitor and deter Russia. They are protecting vital undersea communication cables from potential interference.
And we've got the object, so everything on the bottom with our main sensors, it shows up. So we can safely check, is everything in order for especially a pipeline or not a water cable. High percentage we will see some difference in to a cable, especially when it's cut or whatever. And what we do, the main thing is make the invisible visible.
Belgium took command of NATO's regional deterrence operations this year, sending an extra ship near Estonia recently. Suspected sabotage incidents occurred nearby last year, but have reportedly stopped since NATO increased patrols.
Croatian Prime Minister Andrej Plenković is concerned about instability in Bosnia-Herzegovina, but believes it is time to push for EU membership. In an exclusive interview to Euronews, he also said that enlargement should be a priority for the European Union.
We as Croatia would very much like to see that Bosnia and Herzegovina is our immediate neighbor, a country where Croats are constituent and people with equal rights with Bosniaks and Serbs should move towards the dynamics that other countries of the region have, and we want to help them.
But Plenković remains concerned about regional instability as secession threats grow in Republika Srpska. Leader Milorad Dodik escaped a detention attempt by Bosnian authorities.
So we would very much like that Bosnia and Herzegovina shifts from potential instability and these tendencies of secession when it comes to Republika Srpska to a more harmonious and functional situation in Bosnia and Herzegovina, where the EU path and reforms which are beneficial to citizens both in economic and social terms are implemented.
The Croatian Prime Minister also believes that continuing to leave the Balkan countries waiting may further intensify the pressure from outside influences.
The more slower the process is, the more influence of other global actors in the region we have, whether it's Russia, whether it's China, whether it's some other countries, and therefore we are advocating a structured and dynamic process.
Plenković would like to have the issue of Bosnia and Herzegovina and the Western Balkans debated at the June European Council. You can watch the full episode of the Europe Conversation next week.
Poland is boosting defense awareness in schools, responding to the perceived Russian threat. A mandatory course for teenagers includes basic shooting practice using replica weapons. Some schools now offer a full military option where students train in defensive techniques and receive first aid instructions. Military uniforms in these classrooms are becoming normalized, like choosing drama or English options.
No, dobrze mi poszło. Z broni krótkiej jest dużo trudniej strzelać niż z takiej długiej. No, ale jestem zadowolona, już idzie mi coraz lepiej.
Czasami mam takie myśli, że właśnie Rosja albo Białoruś może zaatakować naszą Polskę, ale póki nie dotknęło nas, to tak naprawdę to nie przejmuję się tym jakoś bardzo.
The overall goal is to build population resilience in the event of a conflict.
Cardinals gathered for their 7th General Congregation on Wednesday as they prepare for the conclave. As they left the venue, most of them walked through St. Peter's Square. Others, like Cardinal Philippe Barbarin, stopped by car to speak with journalists. He said he hopes the conclave will not last long. When asked whether the next pope will be from Europe, he replied that he will be a pope for the entire church. Although not eligible to vote due to their age, cardinals over 80 years old also attend the general congregations for their experience. We spoke to Cardinal Rosa Chavez.
Piena di speranza. Senza dubbio oggi comincia a parlare i nomi i candidati persone che non conosciamo quando si ascolta quello che dicono. Si pensa interessante.
Cardinals will continue to meet until the conclave, using this time to get to know each other better and form a clearer idea of whom they would like to elect as the next pope.
Donald Trump's return to the White House and the trade war between the US and China have brought the India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor, IMEC, back into the spotlight. Formalized in 2023 at the G20 summit, this logistical corridor project aims to facilitate the flow of goods, energy and data. This new trade route would link Europe to India via Israel and the Gulf monarchies, bypassing the Suez Canal.
It's even more important now to talk about building up strategic alliances with this new geopolitical situation where the Americans are kind of unpredictable, to say the least. We more than ever need a corridor like that, because we need to not only face the problems we have with China, but also face the fact that we are competing now regionally between US, China and Europe.
Not all participating countries have the same motivations, according to the researcher Alberto Rizzi. In addition to better access to European and Gulf markets, India is looking for a way to escape China's encircling strategy. The Gulf monarchies see an opportunity to position themselves at the center of future trade in goods and energy. For its part, the European Union is pursuing two objectives.
One is, of course, the de-risking from China, which is not just in terms of supply of intermediate goods or trade, but also in the way of creating a new and different narrative along connectivity and infrastructural initiative, which is a key part of this European economic effort. And at the same time, it's also a way to bring not just the world's largest democracy, but also the world's most populous country and the potential a huge market and industrial partner, which is India, closer and closer to the European orbit.
If the war in Gaza slowed down the new spice route project, it now seems to be enjoying renewed interest. The European Union and the Gulf states are not the only ones courting India. The United States is also on deck.